I just got a response from HP. He may not be able to join us after all, so I'll just take his part.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for following up. Okay, looks like we're a couple minutes after the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining today's webinar. We're going to be hearing from some panelists today about some of the available resources and support services that small businesses might find helpful right now, particularly today as COVID-19 is threatening to have such a huge impact on the health of businesses and their ability to continue to operate. So we're joined today by some of our colleagues in the LISC Boston office who will be discussing their partnership with IXL Center to launch the Beyond 6 Feet Apart Accelerator, which is a digital accelerator designed to help small businesses get their operations back up and running safely over the course of a few weeks. And we're also going to be hearing from a recent cohort member about his experience doing the program. And we're also going to hear from Start Small, Think Big about some of their work providing free legal, financial, and marketing services to entrepreneurs. Before we get started, I just wanted to run through a couple of housekeeping items. Everybody is muted right now and will remain muted throughout the duration of the presentation. If at any point you have any questions or comments, please feel free to submit that via the Q&A and chat function. And we'll be saving a few minutes at the end to have a Q&A session, so we'll just save those until the end of the presentation. But feel free to submit throughout. The webinar is being recorded, and we'll make the recording as well as the deck available afterwards. So everybody that joined will be getting an email with a link to where we house the recording after the webinar. So here you'll see some of our panelists for the day. We're going to hear from Frank Carvalho, who is a recent cohort member and also the owner of Espresso Pizza in Boston. Karen Kelleher, who's our ED in the LISC Boston office. Unfortunately, Hitendra is not able to join today, but we are going to hear from Tina Patigny in the LISC Boston office as well as Alex Stepnick, Start Small, Think Big, and finally Bill Taft, who heads the LISC economic development work. So with that, I'll hand things over to Bill to just get us started before we hear from the Boston folks.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I did want to thank a couple of folks also before we got started that made it possible for us to support this work. And one is Sam's Club, and they provided some funding for both grant making directly to small businesses as well as our ability to support local offices in undertaking this kind of technical assistance. And obviously another key part of this work is the direct grant making we're making with partners such as Verizon and Lowe's and, as I said, Sam's Club. So thanks. I want to thank all of them for the ongoing support. And really what this is allowing us to do is to broaden LISC's work at the local level in supporting small businesses, particularly entrepreneurs of color in the communities we've traditionally invested in. I'm excited to be able to feature Boston today. We have Karen Kelleher, who's the director of the LISC's Boston program, with us, and some folks, as were mentioned, that were part of her work there. And really what it represents is this combination, we think can be really powerful, of the local LISC office working with local technical assistance nonprofits that work with small businesses and have a great local network with those businesses, and also some national organizations that can complement the work of those local technical assistance providers and really deploying effective business development work with small businesses at the local level. So I'm excited to hand this over to Karen now and let her talk about the Boston story.
Thank you so much, Bill. I'm actually going to let my colleague Tina Patigny, who leads our small business work, kick it off, and I'll jump in a minute.
This is Sarah. I just wanted to quickly jump in and mention that Hitendra was able to join and he's now a panelist. So just wanted to make you aware.
Tina, are you ready?
I'm unmuted now. Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tina Patigny. I'm a senior program officer in the LISC Boston office. And in my role, I manage the development of our small business ecosystem, and I drive equity into economic opportunities for our office. LISC is one of the country's largest community development support organizations, and we've been supporting and collaborating with underserved communities for over 35 years to revitalize neighborhoods and bring greater economic opportunities to its residents. Although a national organization, we have deep local roots in Boston, and we've invested more than $300 million in Massachusetts communities throughout those 35 years. Everything we invest in is done through an equity lens. We prioritize our investments from affordable housing, education, developing entrepreneurs and growing existing businesses, as well as financing programs that connect people to technical assistance and resources to build capacity and stability. While everyone is affected by COVID-19, LISC is primarily focused on mitigating the effects of the crisis on underserved people and organizations, those who have been economically hit hardest by the pandemic. We are driving 4 critical solutions for small businesses impacted. They're offering resources through emergency grants, technical assistance, flexible long-term financing, and affordable housing and stability. Next slide. The Beyond 6 Feet Apart program is part of our larger effort to assist small businesses impacted by COVID-19. And the goal of the program is to help minority-owned small business owners reopen safely and pivot their strategy to win in the new normal. We launched the program to assist this particular demographic in getting back to work safely and strategically in the wake of COVID-19. As businesses reopen, they need to be able to adapt their business to the market, to consumer changes and demands, as well as to make it safe and pursue new opportunities for growth. We provide a structured and very disciplined planning process that's supported by consulting teams that guide the business in developing a robust implementation and investment plan to make sure their business is safe and has the potential to capture lost demand due to the pandemic. And now for you, Karen, to you.
Thanks, Tina. I'm going to talk a little bit about the partnership that led to this program with what is probably an unusual partner for a LISC local office. The IXL Center is an international consulting firm with a particular focus on business consulting and education. And they come out of some of the most elite business consulting firms in the country or in the world, but are based in Cambridge. And we started a partnership trying to find ways to scale minority-owned businesses. We've done a digital growth accelerator. We were at the very beginning of that when COVID hit, and we said we need to turn this around and turn it into something that will help businesses survive this crisis. So we did that. We had a very small initial cohort that happened to, and we now are in our second full cohort with 25 businesses that are participating in this accelerator program. IXL brings the discipline of business consulting to this work so that we can create a disciplined process for business owners, pair them with a consulting team, and IXL recruits, trains, and supervises volunteer MBA students who are paired with every business in this program. So every small business in our program gets a consulting team that works with them, that's supervised by IXL. As Sarah indicated, Hitendra Patel is with us today. He's the managing director of the IXL Center, and I'm going to pass it off to him in a couple minutes to tell you about some of the insights from the program. I'll tell you a little bit about the structure of the program, but we view this as a set of critical insights and processes that are helping businesses come up with a plan to survive COVID, to pivot their business, and to thrive in what Hitendra will probably call the new normal. And it's urgent because we are losing our small businesses so quickly. This is just a high level, what are we doing in this program? What is every business doing? There's sort of 4 sections. The first one is really just the onboarding. It's very important to align everyone's expectations and get commitments because it is a bit of an intense program over a course of 5 weeks. But the first module, once we've done that, is to work on making the business safe. And that initially was what the focus of the program was. We thought people needed help getting back to business safely. We very quickly realized that consumer demand has changed, the environment around every business has changed, and it's critical that every business look at what's changed around them and pivot their business to adapt. In some cases, those pivots are existential because they simply cannot continue to deliver their existing value proposition, and in other cases, it's more incremental. We do have Frank Carvalho with us. Frank is both a small business owner and a local technical assistance provider, so he provides this very unique perspective. His business had actually pretty level demand, but still needed to pivot to change in this moment. So he's going to tell you his story. And then the last piece, which is also critically important, is to take that pivot and the safety strategy and bake it into a comprehensive and actionable implementation plan, which includes a communication strategy, which includes a strategy for building digital capacity, which is going to be so critical. Move to my next slide, forgive me. One of the things we've been doing, and it's really about learning as we go, is to have weekly webinars with experts on topics that we're learning about as we go. So it started with reopening guidelines that were just being issued, and every time we go into a new phase, there's a new set of information there. We've done them about digital communications, buying PPE. We're really focusing on digital strategies in the current cohort, and we're having one on financing next week, which of course is so important for these very small businesses we work with. Another key element that's very relevant to this conversation of how we structured this program is that we have been seeking to engage our technical assistance providers and our small business support organizations from the very beginning in every way we could. So in addition to a couple of small business owners who are TA providers like Frank, who we reached out to and invited into the program. There are actually 2 in the first cohort. We also invited other providers to audit the program. We invited them to judge final presentations. We invited them to present as an expert. We asked them for their input into the design of the program. We present on the program regularly to get feedback, and we've had referrals into the program from many, many of our local partners. So I would say we've had 30 different organizations involved in one way or another in this program. I'm going to pass it off to Hitendra. Hitendra, feel free to comment if you want to on the structure of the program and what we're accomplishing high level, but then I'll ask you to take us through the 10 key insights that we think we've had, at least to date, from the program. You're on mute.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Tina. This program wouldn't work without the collaboration of LISC, the team from IXL, the TAs, and everybody else. It really is a collaboration. But let me step back. In order to make things happen, there are certain elements that you've got to have in place. The first one is discipline. Somebody's got to provide discipline to start and finish, to monitor what's going on. Discipline is very important, or things don't happen. Second thing is you need a good methodology. A methodology which says, if you follow this methodology, you should get some good outcomes. And a good, simple methodology is really important. The third one is teams. You need somebody to do the work. And often it's not the same person who brings discipline who does all the work. So you need teams. And then the last one is the fourth one is really Sherpas or guides or coaches who kind of say, hey, look, teams, you're moving in a certain direction, and nudge them and push them, pull them, and get them done. And so those 4 things are the most important thing. Discipline, often provided by the CEO of a company, or provided by some structured program like the one we have over here, which is a beginning, a start, and a finish, and we make sure things happen systematically. The second one is teams. Teams are either provided by the company or by teams from the outside. We are lucky in this program, we can bring teams in of very highly energized MBAs who really want to make a difference and contribute to the success of this company. The third is this methodology, a methodology that we have tested out and used multiple times, which we're iterating, and we're grateful for working with LISC on this thing, because we are improving this methodology every step to make it simpler and simpler so that it's not burdensome and gives the results that we need. And then the fourth one is coaches and guides who have gone down this journey before, and they can actually say, don't do that, do more of this. So those are the 4 things that allows you to make a big program successful. And inside here, we have learned a lot over the last many months. And so the 10 insights, just want to warn you, 10 of them. So if you get tired, we'll count them out. The first one is insight number 1, which is literally everybody thought getting back to business was going to be straightforward and simple. But there was this true element of fear that was built into people, in customers, employees, and suppliers. And employees weren't willing to come to work, suppliers weren't willing to come to your businesses, and customers were fearful of what you had to do. And so there was this very random approach of saying, do the following and you'll be okay. But when we actually use the methodology, which is more structured, it says, look, let's follow people as they enter a business. From the hour you come in at 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock, what are all the steps that you take? Who do you interact with? And in those interaction maps, let's look for things which might be something that you might be concerned about. And so we created journey maps of customers who entered your business, employees who entered your business, as well as suppliers. And wherever we saw a hot spot, a red or a yellow on the journey, we were able to say, hey, look, we need to fix that. And those companies who quickly started fixing those and communicated that back to the customers or back to the employees were the ones who could convince the customers to come back and say, hey, look, you look safer in what you have to do. So we created a structured software methodology by following the customers, the employees, mapping it out, and wherever there was a red or a yellow hotspot, which was potentially could create some sort of COVID-19 risk, a solution was identified through a database of solutions, and therefore allowed this company to get started. And so the main thing over here is this comprehensive safety plan is what gave businesses confidence that they were able to tell the customers they were safe, tell the employees to come back to work, and that was it. I don't know, Karen, if you want to add something to that.
I'll jump in super quick because I know we want to get through these slides, but I'll just say that when we started this program, I thought, does businesses really need this? Haven't they already figured this out? The government has checklists. I absolutely am convinced that this thorough process takes a business that comes in without a plan and gives them a plan that's comprehensive, and it builds trust, and it gives them an action plan. It's really indispensable. I'm going to give it back to you, HP.
Okay. So main insight over here is you do really want to map the journeys inside the organization. And in there, you want to look for solutions which are not just all standard beyond 6 feet apart and not standard face masks. You need to think of clever solutions. Number 2 was, hey, the world changed. The world changed significantly. Over the last 6 months, every one of us got used to staying at home, wearing a mask. We were getting upset at somebody else who didn't wear a mask. And we became very different. And in that process, our elderly and our baby boomers decided to stay at home because it was safer from a health perspective. Our teenagers got basically sabotaged by the parents, and they couldn't go out anymore, and they all stayed at home also. So the demand, the market demand dropped. And that's just a fact. And besides, the 6 feet apart recommendations basically made inefficient businesses, real estate plays, the real estate that you had was not the right real estate anymore. When you put that in combination together, the customer demand had changed, and businesses were not only having to be safe, they actually have to change their business to be able to get to those customers. You have to go to the customers, you have to go deliver to customers, because many of those customers were not going to come out again. And this was across the system observation with those businesses which had been really busy before. Now, insight number 3 was basically, hey, guess what? There are strategies that you can, even in this COVID-19 world, use that can help you grow demand or sustain demand. And we work with, as we work with many companies, we could see some common patterns. And not all solutions can be applied to all companies, but certain industries, certain sectors can actually do more of this kind of things. And so changing the target market. You are targeting some particular group of people, let's say the elderly. Well, guess what? You better change. Changing the target market was something to rethink about. The value proposition, add something else more to it. Move it to do-it-yourself strategies. And those actually help you do a lot more things. New channels, thinking of new channels to get out there. That changed everything. Digital kept on coming up again and again. Digital was one way you could go safely to anybody, anywhere, anytime. And if you could get on digital, you're going to do really well. And then basically inside here, of course, there was also the thinking of outsourcing some components of it, some things you didn't have to do. And we had 4 examples over there. Karen, I think you do a good job of sharing some of those examples. I'll let you tell the examples of stories of business model innovation, the demand generation, or changing the markets.
I'll give two of these examples. Frank's going to tell you about espresso pizza later, so I won't tell you that one now. May Kitchen is a restaurant. Their space is too small for social distancing, so they're not opening their dining room, but they're online, and they have been incredibly aggressive. They've leaned into their strengths. They were twice voted best dumplings in Boston, so they started doing dumpling making classes, dumpling making kits. They're now onto a whole range of other changes to really maximize their online home delivery, get creative to bring in their customers, get the demand up. They're doing a subscription program for their frequent purchasers. And the chef there is sort of a media darling, and they're doing amazing communications and have a really top-notch website. Wally's Jazz Cafe is an extreme example of customer demand dropping to zero because of COVID. This is a legendary little hole-in-the-wall jazz cafe that has a worldwide network of supporters in the music world. And it is completely unable to deliver live music and has to completely reinvent itself, at least for an interim period. So they are now shifting to live streaming concerts with a revenue model that goes with that, selling merch because they actually have that kind of network around the world, and actually partnering with spaces that are open, restaurants that are open, to bring the music and have a new type of revenue model. So they're getting very creative.
So insight number 4 was, in the past, many of our clients were location-based strategies. By having the right location, they were in business, they were going to do really well. And they really didn't pay as much attention to the market segmentation. So here was a new nuance now. The smaller businesses had to think about segmentation. One client was basically selling wigs, but this clients were not going to come out because they were health compromised. And therefore, they were not going to come out. And so she had to basically say, look, how do I get to these people who are sick? And so changed an online strategy, saying, we are still available, we can get you wigs, and I'm available, you are available, I can get this thing to you and deliver it to you also. And similarly, segmentation, understanding the customers, which normally is not the strength of this businesses because they're location-based. Now when they started looking at the segmentation, they noticed in the supermarket, for example, that on Tuesdays, customers were showing up and crowding the supermarket just because there was an online announcement of the SNAP advertisements that allowed them to buy things cheaper. So now how do you distribute your advertising across the whole week to make sure that customers would come out at other times and so that there was no crowding happening? But again, understanding the customer was very important. Insight number 5 went down to digital. We looked at all the restaurants, for example, and it didn't matter. Every restaurant was basically saying, hey, we need to get a scheduler. We've got customers coming, waiting outside. Customers don't like it. There were basically payments. We don't want to exchange and touch things. We need digital payments, digital solutions for that. We need some sort of digital social media to help us market other things. And all these things we get to show the importance of what was happening over the last 20 years. Is these companies need to go digital. They postpone going digital. Digital is now needed for health reasons. But guess what? It is absolutely critical for survival in competition. And so this is part of our strategy now. It's clear to us that we've got to add more and more digital support to these companies. Mm-hmm. Insight number 6, communication. You need to go to them. You need to be communicating you're safe. You need to be open. You need to be able to be accessible. And it is now multiple different formats of communication that is out there. It is no longer just your sign on the wall in front of your store. You have to have brochures, digital brochures. You've got to get on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You've got to have your website for landing pages online. One of our clients, this guy is amazing, 6'7", big guy selling insurance. He comes to you, he gives you confidence. He's a big man, and you know you can trust him. And he's selling insurance. He says, I can't even meet anybody anymore. How do I show them I can be trusted? And immediately strategy went to a website. The website projected who he was, and now he's throwing a shadow far bigger than his 6'7" shadow as he goes across all of Boston to do what he has to do. Insight 7, partnering. This is something these guys don't do normally. They're small businesses. They're used to working alone, and partnering is not part of the mindset. But partnering is the fastest way you can get knowledge, and you can get tools and support for doing something you don't know how to do. And so driving the mindset on partnering was important, and which allowed them to adapt quickly. And this has been really helpful to those companies because they're saying, we're teaching them very quickly. You don't need to know everything. Somebody knows something, why don't you partner? At Sueños Basketball, which is a place where they help kids learn about basketball and other things, they partner with the university, and now they're using university professors to pass messages online and teach kids about new things that might be of interest to them as well as adults. But partnering is a different way to get faster. Insight 8 is straightforward. We all know this. We need to spend the least amount of money. We should be taking less risk, less investment, and we should get the highest return. The approach on what we are trying to do over here is we say, tell us your first approach for finding a solution. And this is great, well done. You've got an approach. There's a cost to it. There's risk to it. And then we tell them, can you make it half the price? Can you do it half as, and can you do it twice as fast? And whatever solution they come up with, we put pressure on them. And what we find is again and again, people are smart and they find a way to do things cheaper and they find a way to do things faster and yet still maintain quality. And this mindset has been really helpful. I know Frank's going to talk about some of the things that they're doing over there. And Frank's a great example of how to do that quicker. Insight 9, you can't take solutions which work in one industry and apply it to all industries. Each of the sectors are different and they're being hit differently. There's a phrase, same pandemic, same storm, but different boats and different speed and different things that we have to do. Professional services is less affected. On day one, it was digital, and they really didn't have to worry as much about interacting with human beings. But retail and food and beverages and personal services were all about people. And you had to do something different in here to make it touchless, contactless, and to make people feel safe. And so we need to pay attention to that. They're different. And what we are doing now is summarizing for each of the sector's solutions and creating 2 to 4 page insights reports that we can give to those industry sectors upfront as they join our program, so they don't have to learn from zero what we've already learned from the last 30 and 40 companies. And all the owners have said one thing, that it was really nice to work with the student teams. These teams work very hard. They are genuinely interested in the success of the companies and the owners. And they bring new ways of thinking, different approaches to getting things done. They do things very quickly, also fast. And all that gives confidence and optimism. And the owners often don't listen to their own kids about digital strategies and new things. But when they listen to this team's suggesting, they're more likely to open. So the outside voice does work, and the owners value the support highly. And it gives them confidence and support to do everything. Thank you. Those are 10 insights. There are probably more, and we could have made it to 4 insights, but we thought we'd share all.
You know it's a great partner if you can say 10 insights, 10 minutes. Don't go over because Frank needs his time. So thank you, HP. The value of the partnership is, I can't even express it. But I'm going to pass to Frank Carvalho, but I'm going to give him a chance to comment on this slide if he wants to, because this is the team that he worked with when he participated in the Accelerator for Espresso Pizza. So Frank, tell me when you want me to change the slide.
Good afternoon, everybody. My team was super. Valentine, Isidore, and Mackenzie really listened to me and what the issues were that we, as a pizza place, were facing. And they worked very hard in coming up with different options to make the journey as safe as possible in creating alternatives. It was difficult for them dealing with me because there is a generation gap here. I'm a little bit older, set in my own ways, and they respected that. So we really became a team. I really appreciated them putting the time and effort to make me feel comfortable with what they were giving me as tools. And so much so that I have 3 kids, 2 of which are involved in my business, and I got in trouble with my kids because, gee, Dad, how come you listen to them, but you're not listening to us? We've been telling you, but you never heard us. So I said, okay, lesson learned there to keep peace at home. But my team was in. We were the business has been in business for 56 years. I have been involved in business for about 48 years and 31. We have a very strong take-up. So we lost 30% of the ADM and income remains strong. And one of the my team that and yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. It seems like we're having a little bit of trouble with your audio. If you try turning off your video, it might help with some of the bandwidth issues.
Okay. All right.
Okay, let's try that.
So I hope this is better.
Yep, better. Thank you.
All right. Basically, there was a lot of decisions that we have to do. And going digital is something that we are working on. New products such as frozen pizza and people really putting together pizza kits to sell. Those things are on the way right now. And the website does need some revamping, and we will continue with takeout. One of the things that I learned through the safe journey is that the state after the cohort, the state opened up for restaurants to allow 25% sitting in, and I took a look from the safety point of view and also from a financial point of view, the logistics, the space available outside my store, inside, and I made the decision that it was not safe for my employees, for my customers, and there was no financial reward that would compensate for taking that risk. So we're still only offering takeout, and we'll continue to do so until things change. So through that learning, I have also, for the last 12 years, I started a CDFI in our area, and I do provide small businesses with technical assistance. So the learning here was invaluable because we are providing technical assistance the old-fashioned way. But the times have changed. COVID has changed the way you need to approach technical assistance. So I took a lot of the learnings, and I'm very fortunate that one of the things that I learned in business is that competition is good, and you don't always have to fight with the competition. You can work with them. So in our area, a lot of the technical assistance providers came together, and we work as a team, and we complement what each other does. And that has proved very valuable in delivering the TA, because the problems that small businesses face out there are multiple, and one organization cannot take care of it all. So you stick with your strengths and rely on your partners to help you deliver what it is needed to advance the cause for that small business. So one of the things that come out of this program is that we are finalizing a program together that we are calling the back of envelope approach, where we are looking at the journey and helping the business put together a plan, both from an operation point of view and from a financial point of view, so the business owner can make a decision that's best for its business, whether to reopen, stay closed, to modify the way that they provide the services, go digital, do whatever they need to do, and what is the cost and what is the return if they make that investment. Small businesses need to know that. I'll stop there because I think I'm over my time.
Frank, thank you so much. Sorry. I'm going to pass it back to Sarah or Bill to introduce the next speaker. And thank you so much.
I think you're up, Bill. I'm going to...
All right. Yes. So thank you so much, all of you, for walking us through the story of how technical support has been deployed for small businesses in Boston and the impact it can have. I think that in addition to the local deployment of technical assistance, LISC has had the opportunity to get involved with a number of national providers. If we could go to the next slide. I guess I'm in control. Okay. So we have a number of these national providers who have been really surfaced to us through some of our donors. As I mentioned earlier, we have a number of major donors nationally who have been supporting our grants to small businesses. And one of the things that we really wanted to be able to offer was online resources that, that local applicants for their grants could pursue as well. And so you can see on the left-hand side of the slide here, there is a link to some of the resources we have available. And in addition to that, there are a number of national organizations that are these same donors have worked with as well, who have been raised up to us and that we've developed relationships with that provide a variety of types of structures of technical assistance to small businesses. I would say a common thing is they help build cohorts that are virtual cohorts where people who are maybe don't know a business in their own community that is experiencing the same kind of challenges they are, but they can be linked to others that are, and actually go as a cohort through addressing issues about reopening, say if they're a restaurant or something like that. We have other ones that have actually developed specific resources for businesses at different stages of operations, or at different sizes of business, or obviously different sectors. One of the ones that we've established a new relationship with is one that called Start Small, Think Big. And I was excited to learn about them because they are rapidly growing their footprint across the country, and they are linking small businesses with professional assistance over a longer period of time. Often small businesses might get one consultation with an accountant or a lawyer, and they tend to really ration actually paying for that early when they're very small, just because of the cost of that service. And Start Small Think Big has a really great network of professionals that provide direct technical assistance to businesses. And so we have the opportunity to hear more about that from Alex Stepik, who is representing Start Small Think Big, and I'll hand it over to him now.
Great, thank you, Bill. So if I can do the slides, perfect. So hello everyone on the call. Thanks for listening. I'll try to be quick and offer a little time if there are questions. Essentially, Start Small, Think Big provides free legal, financial, and marketing assistance to under-resourced and traditionally underserved small business owners. I'll give a quick intro to what we do broadly and then talk about how that has evolved in response to COVID. So who we are, we're an organization originally founded in the South Bronx and now based in Harlem and Oakland that believes that access to high quality legal, financial management, and marketing services through professionals is an essential part of starting or growing a successful small business. We're a nonprofit organization. The core of our model is pairing entrepreneurs positioned to grow their business with top pro bono attorneys, financial and marketing experts from generally major corporations, especially those with headquarters in New York and California, regardless of where the entrepreneur may be based themselves. So we work with underserved small business owners. There's a range of eligibility criteria. For some of our programs, there's very little. You just have to be a small business owner. For others, they're more serious. But what it is broken down into in terms of what we offer against where the demand is that in 2019, for instance, our client base was 97% women and or minority-owned businesses. So how do we do that? We focus in 3 substantive programs, the legal program, which I direct, as well as a financial and a marketing program. The legal program provides transactional legal assistance in a holistic fashion over 12 months to any of our businesses that are engaged with us. We don't engage in litigation, but instead what we do is leverage a network of literally thousands of associates and partners at AmLaw 100 major law firms, as well as the corporate in-house legal departments at Fortune 500 companies who want to connect with small businesses, but without us would struggle to find someone, vet them, and understand their needs. And we break out, as a result of our work with them, what it is that they need, help them refine that, help the entrepreneurs themselves refine their understanding of what they need from an attorney, what they need directly in terms of legal assistance. And then they go into the meetings better able to engage with that, and we're able to help track that so that they can meet with a law firm that focuses on one thing and another law firm that focuses on another, to both expedite the services and ensure that they're meeting with the highest quality legal assistance possible. And that can cover everything, as we say in the slide, from contract review to commercial leasing, to guidance on whether or not to form another entity or limited liability entity, and how to go about doing that and structuring their business appropriately to achieve their goals. And we focus not just on limiting risk, which is a major issue. As Bill noted, it's hard for a small business to do anything more than address the one meeting that they might be able to afford early. But our goal is to say, where can the law be an opportunity for a small business? How can you leverage a sophisticated understanding of the law that comes from working with attorneys that are used to working with major corporations like Apple or JP Morgan Chase? How can you get strategies that work for big companies and adjust them for what you actually do to drive revenue, and use lawyers to help you do that wherever possible, and of course protect that revenue and protect yourself so that you don't see that go out the door later either. To that end, we found that financial assistance paired together with that is essential. You don't want to enter a deal if you can't run the numbers. So we do everything from helping businesses who need help learning how to handle their books effectively, get on QuickBooks and the like, but more importantly, to tie in with our legal services and marketing services assistance where it's necessary. A lot of entrepreneurs have this in-house, but where necessary to make sure that there's assistance, with running projections, cash flow analysis, financial management tools that will allow that person to better understand how they should negotiate that contract. Because of course, a lawyer can help you get the terms you want, but we're not particularly qualified as attorneys to tell your small business exactly what price points or what goals you should target in a deal. So when we pair those two together, we get stronger. And then we added on marketing assistance as well, because of course you have to go find those people to get those deals done, to make those sales too, before you're able to project anything effectively. And so we work with clients on a range of issues. We actually call this program the Market Access Program because it's a question of how you access markets. Sometimes that's as simple as redoing your marketing collateral. Sometimes it's as complex as completely renovating the back end of your website to maximize SEO and thinking about supply chain management. Wherever that falls, we try to work on that. Someone just asked, can all of these be provided at once? And yes, that is the core mission that we try to fulfill, is that our full suite clients come on board with us for 12 months across all three programs, and we work to coordinate the services from all three of those programs. In private practice as an attorney, I worked with new and emerging businesses, startups essentially, and often the issue was that they're going to 3 different service providers, and that's only after they get at least a seed funding round. Our goal is to come in with clients who are not going to have access to venture capitalists and angel investors to begin with, probably. And even if they were, they're far away from that step right now. They're proving their market, they're building out their infrastructure, they're securing what they have, whether they've been in business for 30 years or 3 weeks. The goal here is to say, you are actually making sales, which means you have something of value, and we want to help you protect it and build it. So that's what our core purpose is there. There was another question that I'll circle back to about language, where we have been expanding our access in other languages. In particular, we offer some of our services in Spanish, and we're working on Mandarin. It is not a guarantee, but then again, none of our services are a guarantee. Everything that we do is an attempt to get as much service in each of those programs as possible. So of course, that's the answer. If someone is coming in need of that, we will do everything we can to work with them. But because 90% of the services that we offer ultimately come from volunteers to get across the finish line, we work to analyze the issues and package them for those volunteers to smooth the road and then to work on it. We can't always guarantee that a particular language service will align. If there's, I have attorneys that speak lots of languages at law firms, but they're not always available. So we do what we can there. So what are we doing about COVID-19 and what, I think is not merely optimistic, but is at least optimistic about recovery from this process for small businesses. In response to COVID, we immediately pivoted and realized we needed to add a lot more digital resources. We were already a very digital strong organization. A big one is that we have an ongoing list where we just continue to add resources from all over the country. We're putting together new material and new webinars almost weekly. You can find that at that link, as well as public-facing events, where you can look up what's coming down the line. We have lots of live workshops for entrepreneurs to get a sense of what's happening there. And working with our clients, we've also started to promote them. We have a large network, even larger than our volunteer network, of 6, 7, 8-figure earners who in some way are connected to us. And we make a point of saying, hey, don't just support our organization, directly support our clients, directly reach out and buy from these clients because we know their product is good. That's why they're working with us. So don't just volunteer with them, buy from them. And so not only have we been supporting a pivot to digital for all of our clients, we've also been saying, let's list all of them right here to make sure that you can access those if you're looking for something to do. But that is not the only thing. We also built a rapid response program. So in particular, focused on legal support, our team starting around March 10th, we had been piloting remote legal clinical support with a team at Google and the law firm Fenwick & West over a year ago as a way to maximize the fact that we have networks based in major urban centers, but entrepreneurs spread out who don't always have, even if they're in the same city of New York, say, it's not always easy to get from deep Queens all the way to the financial district in Manhattan. So we were figuring out ways to already address that fact, make lawyers comfortable with their issues on one side and make clients' lives a little bit easier to, make it a more efficient process so that they could stay at their business if it's a brick and mortar and actually still take an hour and get that legal consult. So we were well aligned. We started on March 10th, and by April 10th, we had launched the Rapid Response Program, which is a program designed to address the core issues that have been facing businesses in response to the COVID, and it is constantly iterating and evolving. But so far, it has been focused on providing an opportunity to meet with lawyers and top financial professionals at hedge funds and investment banks who normally deal in large numbers to say, how can you think about the available grants and loans that came out? A large part of the work we did was related to PPP loans, but making sure that you understand eligibility and you understand conversion to grant if you're a small business owner. But we've also been addressing a range. We offered a pick list on a simple 2-minute form to fill in that's mobile friendly to say, I need to talk to a lawyer about X. And those, X, Y, and Z was essentially, I have a contract that I need to understand if I can exit or if I can hold the other party to make sure they pay me on that. I have a commercial lease issue. I have an insurance question about my insurance contract, although we've phased that out as most of that has become litigation. We focused on that limited number of things that we could really deliver at scale that we knew people were asking us for. And because we're a data-driven organization, we run on a custom-built CRM. We were able to, and have a data team, we were able to ask the community what they were facing. And that's why it took us a month to get this up and running and build a soup-to-nuts technical solution that connects them to our CRM. We wrote an algorithm in-house that then connects them to the best volunteers. So if you say that you have 3 different issues, our algorithm says, oh, here's a law firm who has a lawyer who hits on all 3 of those specialty areas. They've done a training so they can talk about the CARES Act and they understand how to talk about contracts and commercial lease. So those are your 3 issues. We're going to match you there. Or if you have 4 and we can get you 3 in one sitting, it still does that. So it rotates through that to match people as efficiently as possible. And as a result, we've been able to place a few thousand individual matters as opposed to placing one person at a time per matter and then cycle them through and hope they get another meeting. Essentially, we took the idea of a hotline and we combined it with our core model. Sure. So our geographic reach at the moment is we offer full services throughout the states of New York and California. We offer our rapid response services with some access to full services in the DC area and Pennsylvania. And we offer our marketing and financial services nationally with some limitations on legal, where I say the caveat is we attempt to place legal matters potentially, but I am not licensed in all 50 states as an attorney. I don't have an attorney on staff from every state, and there aren't necessarily law firm volunteers available there. So we work on that. Right now, we are accepting applications from all 50 states. There are times where we may not be able to offer exactly the services in that state that everyone applying from there would need. And in particular, we have real limitations in the state of Florida. But we expanded these services as much as possible in as many states as possible to make sure that we are reaching out throughout. And we've been fairly successful in placing matters, especially in states that do have major urban areas, because most of the firms that we work with have offices, at least an office in several major metro areas. So that's the core of the Rapid Response Program. Just a quick overview that you can look at yourself. but essentially, a sense of the things that we can offer through the model. This section in particular, loan and grant information, has been fully national. We've been able to set up meetings across the board. We have trainings on it from the law firm Cleary Gottlieb that are updated almost weekly with new materials for the volunteer attorneys who take these meetings on. And because it's federal law, we've been able to place people from almost all 50 states, again, not counting Florida. There's a limited amount of state-based program information that we're able to provide through that. We're also rolling out this week a resource that is a sortable, searchable database that is updated by attorneys at some of our partner law firms, including DLA Piper, Paul Weiss, Cleary Gottlieb, and Simpson Thatcher, where those attorneys will be on a weekly basis going through and vetting new public and private grant and loan options for small business owners, as well as attempting to make them sortable based on certain demographic or geographic descriptors for programs that are targeting specific groups, so that entrepreneurs, if they are eligible for a specific small program, but one that's targeted towards their demographic or geographic areas, should be able to more easily find those now that the PPP has closed down, at least for now. We also offer a contract review. Again, that varies by jurisdiction somewhat. Commercial lease review tends to be very local. I probably can't promise that outside of those core markets of Pennsylvania, DC, New York, and California, but we're always open to trying. And we've been building up a debt renegotiation and restructuring practice, essentially, that will allow us at a more national scale to sit down and talk strategy and tactics related to federal law on bankruptcy, with the goal being of avoiding formal bankruptcy and instead giving entrepreneurs the same sort of tools and tactics that bigger players use to go back to their creditors and restructure their debts by saying, I could go to bankruptcy, this is what will happen. Why don't we just do it without either of us having to pay bankruptcy lawyers? As well as to better understand how the CARES Act actually fundamentally altered bankruptcy for small businesses up to a certain point. That isn't quite live yet because it is an entirely new area of law, essentially, with the CARES Act. We're working on it with some teams at some of the firms I mentioned, but that is what is in the offing, and as what we see as sort of the phase 2 of recovery here is businesses, many of them will have a shot to continue, but not if their current debt obligations stay in pre-COVID levels. And we all know that if we're in the space. And so we're trying to say, what can lawyers do? And as someone whose primary skill is just talking incessantly, we're trying to get those same skills around specific legal advantages and understandings to clients so that they have tools. And I can say that in some of the meetings that I've sat in on, just to sample what's going on with my program, we've seen people that we followed up with afterwards manage to negotiate as much as 30% reductions in rent or debt obligations over a 12-month period to give them a chance to actually come out of this process. We also offer some, as I mentioned, some financial assistance and marketing assistance, and it's a timely question that was raised about what that looks like. We have a partnership with GoDaddy that allows folks that come through this program to get, I apologize, I don't remember the exact details, but I believe it's 1 year of hosting and a basic website set up, and GoDaddy waives all of their fees on that. It's a process that is extra helpful if you're able to come on board as a full client of ours, because we're able to offer everything from branding to SEO connected to it. But if small businesses that are purely brick and mortar and need help pivoting to digital, that's been our focus on the marketing assistance. And increasingly, we're looking at other ways where we can add on value for folks that are pivoting to digital based on our data that is coming in from our current client base. And then we're also looking to offer, generally we do this in an office hours setting, but we do sometimes have one-to-one assistance where it is essential. But the opportunity to talk through specific questions about cash flow planning and runway, and we'll be rolling out a digital tool that helps people to self-assess their cash flow and understand whether they need to restructure debt. And generally, of course, the rule is if you don't have 3 months of runway, you need to be thinking about restructuring some of that debt. And we're looking to build out those tools. All of this stuff is iterative. It's a thing where if we have a partner who has a need that they know about, we can work. We try to work as much like a tech company as a traditional legal service or technical assistance organization, where we're constantly ready to pivot in response to demand. So right now, these are both areas that are slightly pivoting and in flux, but the marketing side, we're focused on how do you get online if you're not there at all, and we're working on how do you improve your digital presence as well. This is the history. I mentioned most of this. We have a large number of folks that have really stepped up. I'll just burn through there. The real point is, I apologize, is on some of those slides related to Paul Weiss specifically, but the answer is that we have about 20 major law firms with offices across the country who've been putting in large numbers of hours to be able to have large numbers of meetings, not just with junior attorneys. There were partners, heads of the firm, the general counsel at major hedge funds have been sitting in these meetings with small business owners to try to do everything they can to leverage their decades of experience, not just their legal experience, but their general understanding of how businesses operate in times of crisis, and use the law to their advantage to do everything that they can. So that's what we are doing. And anywhere where you're interested, it is possible to send people our way. And we'd love to work with anyone on that. And I'm happy to try to go through. I think there were a couple of questions that I might not have caught in real time. There was a question about our vetting process. So at this point, our vetting process for the rapid response program is as simple as asking whether or not you're a small business and suffering because of COVID, and then asking about your geographic area to make sure that we can pair people effectively. On our full service clients, we do a 90-minute intake with each one, and we look at personal household income, business finances, the sales and marketing that they do. It's a service unto itself to holistically assess, essentially do due diligence with them. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? What do you have going for you? And where can you use more assistance? And then to make sure that we identify that for everyone. I'll also note that I'm dropping the link into the chat box here to everyone. That link is all that's required for a small business to request assistance through rapid response. You'll see there are a couple of demographic questions, but right now all of our partners have agreed it doesn't matter. What we've seen is that almost everyone who needs that assistance can't afford that legal counsel otherwise, and so people are happy to assist. And you can pass that on to any small business. Like I said, we may not be able to assist in certain ways outside of some of our core markets, but we're working every day to expand our ability to support new markets, new spaces, and do everything we can on federal law nationally to make sure that we're supporting as many small businesses as possible. And we have the scale and the digital backbone to continue to grow that support dramatically, and so far have been able to take on a sizable increase in just the last 3 months over our usual workload.
Thanks so much.
All the questions.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. That was a really great overview of the work that you guys are doing to support small businesses right now. We do have several questions. I'll do my best to try to feed them to you guys. Hopefully people can stay on like a few minutes extra, but if we don't get to your question for any reason, we'll try to follow up with you directly with an answer. And since a couple of people asked, I did also want to note that we are making the recording available, and we'll also make the slides that you saw here available as well. And Karen, if I just could go back to the Boston example quickly, I think maybe you followed up in the chat, but we might not have seen it, but Christine noted that this is a wonderful exercise, and then you guys were able to gather so many interesting insights from your work. She wanted to know whether there are any mapping tools or templates that you guys have developed, and whether there's any way to make those available to people that are interested in replicating some of this work.
Thank you for that question, and I apologize in advance if my dogs try to take over the answer. There's not so much a template, but we actually have a digital planning tool that we are using to guide the teams and the business owners through the process. And IXL has been building that tool and developing it and adding to it as we've been learning from the program. And there's a reason for that. There's two reasons, really. The most important one is it gives us the ability to scale the program, because we're aware that what we and the IXL teams can do together is increasingly growing, but it's not enough. There are thousands of businesses who need to go through this kind of process. And so that tool is something we're building so that we can put the methodology into the hands of others. In addition, some of our participants have taken what they've learned, just like Frank, the other TA providers, and HP, I'll give you a moment to chime in here too in a minute, and actually created checklists, which I'm sure we could share, that are specific to a particular industry. Here's a checklist for a reopening barbershop or hair salon. Here's one for a contractor. So there has been a bit of a creation of tools there, but I'll pass to Hitendra to say more about what we're building.
So thank you, Karen. The philosophy of software is it by itself as a discipline in what we need to do. But we need to somehow get closer and closer to do it yourself. At some point, people should be able to figure out how to do everything on their own, not even have teams supporting them. Almost like how Quicken was able to take us our personal finance and put it into software, and now we know what we have. And QuickBooks is getting quite close to doing that. We need to get this sort of tools to all of our small businesses. And the main idea over here is to break the problem down across the business and saying what's marketing, what is sales, what's HR, what's operations. And for each one of those things, we got to find out which digital tools are the best for them and which one actually moves the needle. So just because we can build a website doesn't mean website is the right thing for every company. For some companies, absolutely. So the tool that we're building has got a combination of things. There's a self-assessment. Where am I today and where do I want to go? And where can be the journey once I get there is still another step. So it's almost aspirational. So you figure out where you are today. You can take small steps to moving forward, but we got to keep on taking steps to go into the next level. Each step they take, the tool actually allows you or tells you, here's 3-4 things you got to do. And therefore now you actually have a roadmap on how to do this also. And that's the philosophy of the software that we're building is you need to, first of all, recognize where you are compared to other people. So there's benchmarking. This data is going to be accumulated as other companies also use the software, so we can actually audit against each other. The software will also tell us what other people are using as digital tools, which really help them be successful. Just because we hear about a digital tool doesn't mean it's good for you. We want to make sure digital tools that others are using and found easy to use are the ones that we actually talk about and we spread. And so we're going to use the portfolio of companies that are working and use their collective intelligence to allow us to select the best tools for them. And then within that, of course, we can now develop a network, an ecosystem of other people who can help each other to be more successful. So that's how the software works. I think we live in a digital world, a digital age, and we need to bring digital technologies to all the SMEs and really help them not waste their time doing the mundane, but to give them time back to be able to do what they really need to do is business.
Thank you both. We have another question. At one point, you were talking about customer and employee traffic mapping, and we have a clarifying question as to whether you were gathering that info via a specific software or if that was a method. And if the latter, do you guys have any insights on how businesses and partners might try to capture this kind of information in their market?
So the software is it's called a journey map, and it's been around for a long time. The concept of journey mapping, management consultants have been using it for a long time, and it allows you to follow a customer. You take notes, but instead of you taking notes, it's done digitally. So you can watch a customer move through, and you say they're at this location at this time, and they see somebody else, and you document that, and you just essentially map the whole journey, and you ask people how do they feel at that moment, what do they need at that moment. And so you also capture the emotional need. And it's not just about the fear of COVID-19. It could be, I want a better service at this level. I need somebody to talk to me at this level. So you collect a lot of information and really understand how individuals feel all along the journey. And from there, you actually innovate around needs that we may not be addressing. So that's what the journey maps are. It's a tool. It's really cool in terms of, it allows you to pick and place different journeys, locations, and time. And then at the end of it, you can show a graph which shows the whole journey of somebody from beginning to end. And if you make it all from red, kind of dangerous or unsafe, to green, you put it on the window of your restaurant, you can put that window in the front of your restaurant saying, here's all the things that we've done to make a journey for you as a customer safe or for our employee safe also. It's in the tool, it's easy to use, and it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you so much. Alex, I'll end the question to you, and then I think there are a couple more that we weren't able to get to, so we'll follow up with you directly if we didn't respond to your question. But Alex, can you talk a little bit more about how businesses are matched with professionals and how they go about developing goals and strategies and plans to address the business needs? And does support come in the form of coaching based on needs or a curriculum that gets followed?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll answer the second part first, which is that is not our model really at all. We offer direct work product type service. So what we try to do is replace when your business would need to go to a lawyer and get work product from a lawyer, but can't afford to pay for that. We offer that service. And similarly, when you would need to go in and have someone, help you do your books while that part transitions, along with the lines of what Mr. Patel just mentioned, into a learning process. The point is initially, in order to do certain things with lawyers, you need to get the books in order to begin with. So we try to fill that gap and provide that work product while also in that program helping you to understand how to do it on an ongoing basis yourself. And similarly in market access, we aren't a marketing service. We aren't a marketing agency. So the goal is to get you certain pieces of work product to get the ball rolling, but also to make sure that you are understanding what it is that you'll need to do to maintain those, whether it's a social media presence or branding, to maintain them and grow them. But fundamentally, our goal is to provide that direct work product style assistance. The way that we match people with professionals is we do an assessment of your needs based on either your request and rapid response or your intake process with us. And then we parcel that out into a modular approach and work with our network and our technology tools to pair the appropriate volunteers with that need. Often for many of our core services, we're able to do that very quickly. And then for others, we're not always able to guarantee that something that you're looking for is something where there is an appropriately skilled volunteer just standing in the wings waiting because there's a lot of demand on certain areas. But we have a relatively sophisticated technical backend that allows us to assess volunteers on one end and your needs on the other, and then find that fit using a number of tools that pair you, and then we put you in direct touch with those individuals the same way that you would if you were paying them as, say, a marketing consultant or paying them as a law firm. Say, you don't have to pay for it. All of our services are free.
Great. Thank you all so much for giving an excellent overview of the work that you're doing to support small businesses right now and sharing the insights that you've gleaned while doing that work. Bill, before I let everyone go, did you want to share anything? I know I'm mindful that we're 7 minutes over now, so no reason if not, but just.
I just want to thank all of our panelists for your time and for everyone for joining us.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.